and your formula chart that you're going to get to use for the test. So if you could just try not to lose it, that would be great. Okay. Then just a quick heads up on Friday. I'm actually not going to be here that day. So you're not going to take your test Friday. You're going to actually take it next week. But because you're testing after weekend, we'll do like a little quick warm up that day to kind of get you back. Okay. All right. So take a look at your first page. Let's do number 2. So first thing that you should notice is that you have a 5 base on the left and you have a 25 base on the right. Remember, you want a common base and you have the chart right here kind of on this sheet. So look up 25 as a base 5. Okay, so your 5's chart is here. And we see that 25 is the same as what? 5 squared, thank you. So I'm going to keep my 5 to the x the way it is, but I'm going to turn my 25 into a 5 squared. Remember that the old exponent is going to stay there. You're just going to group it in parentheses. Now, the original 25 was part of a fraction. Do we see that? So look on your formula chart. And do you remember that right here, if your base is in a fraction, you're going to use a negative in the exponent for that. So for your 5 squared, you're actually going to make it a 5 negative squared. Okay, so put a negative right there. Okay, then once you get your matching bases, you can cross them out, set the exponents or the little top parts equal to each other. So we're going to have 5's are gone. X equals -2, x minus 3. Okay, then from there, go ahead and distribute with the parentheses. So -2 times x is going to be -2x. What about -2 times -3? What would that be? +6. Okay, then from there, I have x's on both sides. Remember, we want to try to get them together. So if this is a -2x, I'm going to add 2x to both sides so that I can just have one x to solve for instead of multiples. What is 1x plus 2x on the left-hand side? 1x plus 2x would give me 3x, and then equal to 6. And then divide that 3 on both sides. What's my x going to be? 2. Very good. Okay. Let's do maybe a couple more out of this section. Go down for me to, let's do number 6. Okay, so I have a log little root 3 and I want to undo a little root 3. Then remember, you're going to big root 3 on both sides. So remember, to get rid of a log little number, you have to do a big of that number on both sides. So my root 3 and my log root 3 cross out. I have 81 equals root 3 up to the 6x. Okay, then from there, we would have to take our 81 and turn it into a 3. So look on your chart. We're looking for 81 in the 3's chart. What is 81 as a base 3? 3 to the 4. Very good right here. 81 is 3 to the 4. And then on the other side, I noticed that it's not actually a 3. It's a square root 3. What is a square root the same as an exponent? Do you remember? It's a 1/2. Very good. So we're going to take our square root here and we're going to change it to a 1/2. Keep your 6x in parentheses. Okay, then from there, we can cross out our 3's and keep solving. So I have 4 equals, what is half of 6x? Half of 6x would be 3x. And then to get rid of the 3 in the front, what would we do? 5 by 3. So we have x equals 4/3, and you can leave it just like that. If you want to divide it and turn it into a decimal, you can, but you don't have to. Okay, take a look at number 5. Okay, number 5, how do I get rid of a log little 4? Big 4. So my big 4 and my log little 4 are gonna cross out. I have a 1/8 equals 4 to the x minus 1. Okay, from here, you need the 8 and the 4 to be the same base. So look in your 4's chart. Do you ever see 8 in that chart? No, then you have to find another chart that they both are in. So if I can't use 4, what base are 4 and 8 both in? The 2's chart, very good. So if you look right here, 4 is 2 squared and 8 is 2 cubed. So we're gonna have to turn both sides into a 2 base. So my 8 is gonna go 2 to the 3. My 4 is gonna go 2 to the 2. Remember that the old x minus 1 is just gonna stick around. Anything we're missing on that? The negative on which side? On the left side, very good. So remember, the reason we're putting a negative there, use negative, is because it was a fraction. Okay, use negative because fraction. Okay, then from there, we're gonna cross those 2's out and then just set the tops equal to each other. So I'm gonna have -3 equals 2 times x is 2x, 2 times -1 is -2. And then from there, we're trying to get the x alone. What do I get rid of next? My 2x has a -2 attached that I want to undo.
That's for seniors. Seniors, we're gonna just do at the level A through G. If any of you guys have not taken your pictures at Prestige or did not take them on last Friday, you now can go to the small gym to take your pictures. This is the last date that they will be on campus. So again, if you did not get your senior photos taken last Friday, you have not gone to Plano to take them at Prestige, last names A through G, you may go to the small gym at this time. Thank you.
Okay, so -3 plus 2, what are we gonna get? -1. And then to solve for the x, we have a 2 in front, that means a times 2. So we would divide by 2. Okay, and then remember, getting fractions is fine. So your x is gonna be -1/2 or -1/2. Okay. Let's do number 11. What is my little in the log? Log little what for number 11? Log little x. Then how do I get rid of log little x? I use a big X. And my big X and my log little x are going to cross out. So I have 6 equals x up to the half. Okay, from there, what is a half power the same as? Square root. So really, this is 6 equals square root x. And how can I undo a square root if I'm trying to solve? Square both sides. Very good. So I do squared, squared. The square root and the squared are going to cross each other out. And I have x equals 6 squared. You can look it up in your chart, or you can just put it into the calculator. Okay, but what is 6 squared or 6 times 6? 36. Very good. Questions on that? Okay. Turn over to the next page and let's do 13 together. You'll notice that on number 13, there's no little number listed. Okay, so in our notes, we talked about that if there's no little number listed, what does the little number count as? 10, that's correct. Okay, so put that right there. That's really, if it's just a log, that counts as log 10. Now, let me show you on your sheet where it says that. Okay, right here, it says log x means log 10x. So if there's no listed base, means base 10. Okay, so if you want to write that there just so that you don't forget it next week, Then the other thing I was gonna let you put on here, since it's not on here already, is remember that a square root is the same as a 1/2 power. And a cubic root is the same as a 1/3 power. Okay, so now let's keep going with that question we were just on. So we had log little 10. How do we get rid of little 10? Big 10. So put a big 10 on both sides. And remember that a big 10 and a log little 10 are going to cross each other out. So you have x equals 10 to the negative 2. Okay, from there, look up 10 to the 2 in your chart. What is 10 to the 2 the same as what number? 100, but since it's a negative, I'll do 1/100. Okay, so remember that if I have a fraction, I put a negative. Then if I have a negative, I'd turn my number into a fraction. So you would still look up your 10 squared. Okay, just like we were doing before, it's 100, but then you'd make it 1/100 as a fraction. All right, then number 14, there's not one that hard on your test. You just skip that. All right, we're gonna do a couple more from the bottom section, and then I'll give you guys some time to work. So for 17 and on, okay, let's start with number 20. Go down to number 20. What number do you think we should get rid of first? We have a third, 6 to the x plus 3 minus 9. What number needs to go first? Minus 9. How do I undo minus 9? Plus 9. So plus 9 here, plus 9 here. 2 plus 9, how many are we going to get? Okay, 11 is correct. So this is what we have so far. 1/3, 6 to the x plus 3, now it's equal to 11. Next step, I have a 1/3. That means a divide by 3. How do I undo a divide by 3? Multiply by 3. And if I do 3 times 11 on that other side, what are we going to get? 33. 33 is correct. Okay, from here, you would look in your sixes chart and try to find 33. But you're going to notice that 33 is never in the sixes chart. So your other option, if you can't find it in the chart, is if I want to get rid of a big 6, I'm going to log little 6 on both sides. So I'm going to log little 6 here, log little 6 here. And then my big 6 and my log little 6 are going to cross out. I'll just keep the x plus 3. And then remember that this you can put into the calculator. Okay, so let me remind you how to do that, and then we'll add it to your little cheat sheet. So come over here to your calculator. Remember, it's alpha window, and then you're going to go down to option 5. It says log base. And then it should give you 2 boxes. You're going to put the small script number in the little box, the 6, and then a 33 in the big box. Okay, and remember, if it doesn't show up in the chart, it's going to come out to be a decimal. So it's 1.95. 1.95. Then how do we get rid of the plus 3? Minus it across. Remember, you're going to use the long form of the number until the very end. So this minus 3 gives me negative 0.04, followed by an 8. Negative 1.04 is going to round to 0.5. Okay, for your test, we're just going to do 2 decimals for the ones that you're solving, just like we did on the homework. Okay. Let's take a look at number 21. Okay, how do I get rid of a root 3 base? We are going to use a 1/2. That's correct. So we'll do 1/2 here. 6x minus 10 is going to stay in parentheses. Okay, and then for 81, if I can find it in the chart, okay, then we're gonna do it like that. So look in your chart for 3. Can we find 81 in there? 3 to the 4. What am I gonna change on that though, since it was a fraction? -4, very good. Okay, and then from there you can cross out the 3's and keep solving. So my 3's are gone. What's half of 6x? 3x. Don't forget, you also need to push the half into the -10. What's half of -10? -5. And then on the other side, we're going to times in that -4. Remember, the negative came from the fact it was a fraction. So -4 times x is -4x. What about -4 times -4? 16, very good. Okay, from there, how do we get rid of a -5? +5. And 16 plus 5 is going to give me 21. Okay, and then I'm noticing that my x's, I got to get those on the same side too. So if this is a -4x, how can I bring it over to be with the 3x? Add the 4x across. Very good. Okay, 3x plus 4x is going to give me 7x equal to 21. And then last step, 5 to 7. Very good. So 21 divided by 7 is 3. All right, let's do maybe one more that has an E for the base. Let's do number 24. Okay, first question, how do I get rid of that 25 in the front? Notice the 25 is multiplied with the E. How can we undo that? Okay, good. Divide 25 on both sides. So I have E to the x over 2 minus 1 equals. And then 100 divided by 25, that's going to give me how many? 4. Okay, from here, these are your notes that you did while I was gone. How do we get rid of a big E? Do you remember? Log little e, but there's a shortcut for it. What is log little e the same as? ln. Very good. So let me show you on your sheet where it says that. Okay, if you want to do a log little e, remember that's the ln button in the calculator. So if you want to type in log little e, you can, but you already have an ln button right here that you can use instead. So let's do it. We're going to ln both sides. And then in your calculator, I want you to find the ln or natural log of 4. So I have x over 2 minus 1 equals whatever the ln of 4 is. ln of 4 is 1.38, but then it's followed by a 6. So I'm going to round it to 1.39. Then I'm going to add my 1 across. So I'm going to have x over 2 equals. Remember, you're going to use the long decimal till the very end. So that's 2.39. And then if that's a x over 2, that means divide by 2. How do we undo divide by 2? Multiply. And remember, you want to use the long decimal. So we're going to do this decimal, 2.386, and then times 2. You get 4.77. Okay, for your test, if you're not good at rounding, as long as you're within 1/100th of the right answer, also count it right. So if it's 4.77 and you put 4.78, I'm not going to take off for that. Now, if you put like 4.87, that's too far off. You'll lose some credit. Okay, but as long as your last number is close, then you'll be fine. All right, let's turn to the next page. Let's do number 28. We'll do 26 and 28 and then take a little break. Okay, 28. I have 7 ln 2x minus 3. What number do I get rid of first? 3. Minus 3. I'm going to do a plus 3. That's correct. 1 plus 3 gives me how many? So I have 7 ln 2x equals 4. Can I get rid of the ln now? Not with the 7 there. How do I get rid of the 7 in the front? divide. So I have ln 2x equals 4 divide 7. Now, if you could divide 4 by 7, do it. But since it won't, I'm just going to leave it as a fraction. Okay, remember that in ln, this was in your notes last time, is the same as a log little e of 2x. So how do I get rid of a log little e on both sides, or an ln? What do I do to cancel it out? A big E. Okay, ln is a log little e, then I'm going to big E on both sides to cross it out. So I'm going to have 2x equals, and then we're putting this into the calculator. Okay, in the calculator, to get the E, you're going to hit second ln. Okay, they're the same button, but you just have to push second on it first. And then we'll put 4 divide 7 in the exponent. If you want to use the fancy fraction, you can, but you don't have to. As long as you put 4 divide 7, you should get the right answer. So I got 1.77 followed by a 0, so I'm not going to change it. And then what's my last step? Divide by 2. Very good. 1.77 divided by 2 gives me 0.88 followed by a 5. What do we round it to? 89. Very good. So if it's a 0.88 followed by a 5, we're going to swap it out for a 0.89. All right, last question we're going to do together right now. Take a look at number 26. What's my log little number on 26? Little 3. How do I get rid of a log little 3? Big 3 on both sides. So my big 3 and my log little 3 are going to cross out. I have x minus 2 equals. And then if it was 3 to the 4, you could look this up in your chart, on your formula chart, right? Okay, but if it's 3 to the 4.5, just put it in here. Okay, so if it's a decimal, that's no big deal. Just do 3 up to the 4.5. Okay, your chart has a lot of powers in it, but it doesn't have every power you'll ever need. So 3 to the 4.5 comes out to 140.29. Am I going to keep it like that? The 0.29 is going to bump to a 0.30 because it's followed by a 6. Okay, then from there, how do we get rid of the minus 2? Plus 2. And my 140 plus 2 is going to give me 142 plus 30. Questions on that? Okay. So the first half of this review is a lot harder than the second half. So we're going to take a break here. Okay, and I want you to do as many of those questions as you can. Okay, and then we'll pick up on number 32, just with the log properties and then the graphs. Okay, ask me if you need help. Yes. Jared, you need to see the first page?
That, and I wasn't here for like the first ever.
Okay.
Nor did I understand the one.
Okay, then do you want to do the notes from those instead of your, that's, you don't have to push in. Okay, so then let's do some solving. All right, so let's do number 1. Okay, so what's your base on the left? What number? 7. Then you're gonna look on your 7 chart. You're trying to find 343. 7, 3. So keep your left side the same, 7 to the whatever, and then equals instead of 343, change it to a 7 to the 3rd. Do that first. Okay, then from there, cross the 7s out and just set the tops equal to each other. Yes, we're about to go on to the last part. Do you need help with it?
I'll wait.
Okay, because it won't take very long. All right, go ahead and go to where we left off. Okay, we should not need very long to work through this last little bit. Okay, these are just your log properties. Now, if you look on your chart, you have all the properties here. Okay, remember that if you have logs that are added, you can multiply them to put back together. If they're subtracted, you divide to put them back together. And then remember that little numbers up top can drop down to the front. So let's do number 32. Okay, first thing, any front numbers that I can push up. The 5 can go up as an ln x5. Okay, what other number can move up? The 1/2, very good. So I'm gonna cross out my half. So now it's an ln y to the 1/2. Now I cannot bump up the ln of 3 because notice the 3 is not in the front. Only front numbers can move up. Okay, from there, all of my ln's are in their own logs. I want to put them all back together. So will I multiply or divide the x and the y? Multiply is correct. So it'll be x5, y 1/2. Now, quick question. Why did we multiply them? Because what was their sign between them? A plus addition. Very good. Versus for my ln3, it's minus. So where's the 3 going to go? The bottom. All right, take a look at number 33. That's the other one we'll do from this section. If you have parentheses, you do not move any numbers until you get rid of them. So I see on this question that I have a -3 on the outside. I'm going to need to distribute that into both of the terms in the parentheses. So I'm going to have log 15. What is -3 times 10 log A? You're just timesing the numbers in the front. 30 log A. Okay, now careful on the next one. You're doing a -3 times a -2 plus 6 log B. Now that the parentheses are gone, any of those front numbers, you can bump them up. So that means my 30 can go up as an A to the 30. My 6 can go up as a B to the 6. And now that I don't have any front numbers, I can squish them all back into the same log. Remember that added terms will go on the top and subtracted terms will go on the bottom. So my 15 gets to stay on top. Who else does? B6, good. And then where's the 30 going to go? On the bottom because it was minus. Okay. Now, I'm actually noticing that I didn't quite finish 32. What is a 1/2 power the same as square root? So really, this part of your test is multiple choice. So the correct answer out of the choices would be root y. Like that. Okay. The whole test isn't multiple choice, but the part where you're expanding and condensing logs, that part is. Okay, so that's how you condense logs. Now let's talk about how to expand. Okay, so go down to number, let's do 36. Okay, taking a look at 36, I have a P, a Q, and an R, and they're all sharing the same log. So the first thing that I'm going to do is figure out what the operation is between each of those letters. So my P3 and my Q are multiplied, but my R is divided. And so you want to think about them all as individuals so that when I split them, we know if we're adding or subtracting those pieces. So this would be log P3 plus log Q and then minus log R. Okay, then remember, any top numbers, when you're expanding, you push it back down to the front. What number are we talking about here? The little 3. And remember, it drops down to the front of that log. So in this case, it would be 3 log P plus log Q minus log R. Now, the other thing I want to point out to you, the next one we're going to do is 39. Is that you'll notice that in number 37, instead of saying log, what does it say? ln. But remember, y'all should have learned last class, and ln is just a type of log. So you work it out the exact same, but instead of writing log, 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 you're going to put ln, ln, ln. Okay, also on your sheet, let me just point it out to you. Okay, all the rules for logs are also there for LNs. Because an LN is just a particular type of log, but it follows all the same rules. All right, so let's do number 39. Okay, first thing I want you to notice is that you have a squared on the outside. You need to apply that squared to everybody inside the log. So I'm going to do a squared on my 6. And I'm going to do a squared on my cubic root of. So that squared goes with everybody on the inside. Now remember, if you have two numbers up top with each other, you're multiplying them together. So that means this is really how many A's on top? Log A12. Very good. Okay, and then on the bottom, what is a cubic root, not a square root? A cubic root, the same as what fraction? A third. And if there's already a 2 up top, then remember, I'm just going to cut the 2 divided by 3, like this. Okay, so we apply the squared, we turn our cubic root into a third, and then will I add the logs for A and B or subtract them? So it's going to be log A minus log B. And then the 12, I'm going to put in the front of the log A. And the 2/3, I'm going to put in front of the log B. Questions on that? All right, turn to the back page. All we have to do left is graph. All right, on the back, you have 2 types of functions you should know how to graph. The first one is exponentials. So let's do number 40. I have a -2 with my x. Which way are we going to shift it? Left, right, up, or down? -2 means to the right 2. What about the +6? Up 6. So go to the right 2, up 6. That is the place where you're going to put your horizontal asymptote. So remember that exponential growth graphs have a horizontal asymptote. The equation for that line, or in this case, HA, horizontal asymptote is y equals 6. Okay, now because I can't touch that line, remember that my starter point is going to be 1 up from that center. So I'm going to put my dot right here. Instead of at 6, it's going to hit at 7. And then remember that this is an exponential growth graph. So all that you want to do is start really close to the x-axis, hit that 7, and then. Now, keep in mind, you're going to have a calculator for your test. So if you don't remember what it looks like, just type the equation into the calculator. You can also see the picture there. For my domain, I have arrows on both ends. What will my domain be? All real numbers. Now, for my range, remember, it's lowest to highest. This graph can't go all the way to -infinity because it gets stopped at what y value? 6 is the lowest that it can go. Now, how high can it go? Infinity. So your range is going to be 6 to infinity, parentheses on both sides. And remember, we use a parentheses on the 6 because you can't actually get to 6 because of that y. Okay? So you'll do 41 the same way. It's your exponential growth graph. The number with x moves it side to side. The number at the back moves it up and down. All right, go down to number 43. Number 43 is a log. I have a -2 in parentheses. What do we do? Left, right, up, or down? To the right. What about my +6? Up 6. So go to the right 2 and up 6. But for a log graph, instead of a horizontal asymptote, you're going to have a vertical. Okay, so I'm going to put right above my asymptote here. This one gets a vertical asymptote. And it's through x equals what x value? 2. Very good. Okay, then, since I can't do one step up, because remember, I can't touch that line, I go one step to the side. Okay, and as far as this test goes, you're always gonna be stepping to the right one. You're never gonna go that way. Okay, then remember, if you kind of turn your head, it kind of looks like the growth graph. Okay, it's gonna go like this. And if you can't remember which way the line goes, think about what do logs come from. They come from trees, and your line is up and down like a tree. That's your. Okay, your domain. Can my graph go to the left forever? Once it gets stuck, it can't go past 2. So your domain would be 2 to infinity. But then for your range, this one can go down forever and up forever. So it would be all the way. Okay. Now, take a look at 42. You notice anything? Your girl forgot to change the question. It's the exact same thing. So you can just cross it out. It's literally the same question. Okay. All right. You guys have about 20 minutes left. Okay. So make sure get that review done. And then if you're afraid that you're going to lose it and you finish it today, I don't mind keeping it for you. Yes. Well, are you going to breakfast or not? Yeah. And Jared, you said breakfast, right?